Welcome to another episode of Behind the Schemes, where we get to see what makes people tick, how they overcome adversity, how they thrive, and just motivate themselves on a regular day basis. Today we have a wonderful guest. I'm gonna let my mom introduce this wonderful guest. I'm Danny Wright, your co-host, here with my lovely mother, Kenice Middleton, who's going to kick us off.
I'm so excited for our next guest. We have the CEO of the Boone Group, no other than Joy Shanaberger. Her company is focused on acquisitions in the government and defense. She's done a lot by way of tech services and solving some of the complex problems that are happening in the government and the private sector. Excited to have Joy here. She wears a number of hats. She is also a boxer, an amateur boxer. So we have someone in the ring with us today to talk about what she's been doing and how she's been doing it. So we like to always start off with, what's your secret sauce? How do you navigate the complexity of your world and tackling and solving business problems and juggling boxing and having, that be a part of your everyday life as well?
Yeah, I like it. Thank you both so much for having me. This is so much fun. I love it. I'll go a little bit in reverse order, how I balance everything. If I didn't box, I think my mental health would be very negative. And so everybody that I work with that I'm constantly pushing and is pushing me, if ever there's a day that maybe I'm a little short-circuited, they ask me, when's the last time you went to the gym? Did you miss a couple days? So it actually makes me a happier person when I'm active. And I think my team appreciates that. So for me, it's not a have to, it's a I get to, right? A lot of times people think, well, I have to work out, I have to do this. And there's a lot of people in the world that would quite literally die to be able to work out because they're, have situations in their life where they just can't. So for me, it's a I get to. And so every day it's a blessing that I can move. Sometimes that's boxing, sometimes that's yoga, sometimes that's CrossFit, but boxing is the main gig. And I think, you asked how do I kind of overcome adversity and just stay in the fight? I tell the story a lot, but I swear to you, it's true. And you'll appreciate it as a mom because it's about my mom. So everybody always asks me, I had a really interesting career path at a very young age. I got my dream job by the time I was 21, which is a blessing and a curse because I thought I was going to do it at age 60. So I went, uh-oh, what do I do now? So everybody's always asked me, Joy, how do you do it? How have you become so successful? And it ties back to one moment when I was 6 years old. I was sitting in my den with my mother, single mom. So my mom and my great grandma, who I named the company after, raised me. And it was the first time I felt a sense of embarrassment because we couldn't afford the fancy Valentine's Day cards. And I didn't know why we couldn't afford it. And I didn't know why I felt bad about it, but I knew I didn't feel good, right? I mean, I was 6. So she taught me how to trifold little letters. I hand wrote letters to every one of my classmates. I'm in first grade. And instead of stamping it together, we made these little hearts that served as the homemade sticker to seal it. I couldn't cut the heart. And my mom is incredibly creative, like Picasso creative. Okay. So it was always hard for me to kind of stay in her sphere. So I looked at her and I said, I can't do that. I can't cut a heart. I'm 6. And she just looked at me and she goes, yes, you can, show me. And so I just kind of closed my eyes. I was like, okay, well, what did she just do? She folded the heart, the construction paper, cut out half. So let me just try it. So I did it and it turned out a little janky, right? But ever since then, anytime I don't know how to do something or I'm scared of something, I just go back to that moment where, she couldn't buy Valentine's Day cards, so she figured it out. I couldn't cut the heart, and she's like, yes, you can, show me. So every time I'm in a adverse situation, I'm like, all right, what's the worst that could do? The heart comes out crooked, whatever. It's still going to seal the envelope, right? So that's how that my roots definitely shape my sometimes hard-headedness to want to succeed.
Wow. I can relate to that. I can relate to the heart, the Valentine's Day story, because we couldn't afford to have the Valentine's Day cards. And so we made them when I was a kid. And when Daniel came along, I probably overcompensated. He had every kind and every color. It was like the reverse. Let me make sure he has more than enough for all the classes and all the grades. It was just ridiculous. But
I love it.
All too well.
What a remarkable way to kick off this episode.
I'm telling you.
You just gave us you gave us one of the most inspiring stories we've actually heard on this show. That was so great. So let me
Nice.
ask you this then, going back to your childhood, you know, and I would assume, and I know this because we've talked a little bit, but there's been a lot of lessons along the way of your career path, and you're the type of person that finds lessons in a variety of different situations that you go through, and find solutions. So what advice would you give your younger self? Obviously you had your dream job very early, but I'm sure there's other things you're like, you know what, if I knew this a little bit earlier, then would have started Boone Group a little bit earlier.
Yeah, so I made my mother cry when I was 14 years old for the quote that I had in my yearbook. And the quote that I put in my yearbook was, so 8th grade, right? Was, I make me happy. Meaning I don't need anybody else. I got it. Like I'm good because I wanted to take responsibility for my own happiness. Well, that's good and bad. What I would tell my younger self, and even myself now, I'm humbled enough that I can take my own advice, but it would be, you don't have to go at it alone. You really don't. Like, it's great that you can, but you don't have to go at anything alone. And I think the sooner you learn what you're best at, and if you don't know, put yourself in situations to figure it out. And the sooner that you learn what you're not great at, even if you can expand your knowledge a little bit to be dangerous, but you know, somebody else is better, rely on that somebody else, right? Like their dream and passion to be the best at that thing exists. Same with me. And if you can align your friend group, your personal group, your professional group to offset those balances and not be scared to ask for help sooner, I think that you can achieve a lot more. I also think that people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 10. So, you know, just being mindful of, you know, do you have to suffer for a year by yourself, or could you tap somebody else in, and then could you accelerate that growth process? I don't think I asked for help soon enough in a variety of aspects of my life, not just Boone. And so I would say, hey, it doesn't actually have to be that hard. You can just ask for help, and that doesn't make you a bad person, and it doesn't make you weak. It actually makes you stronger.
Yeah. And building on that, what would you say if you were giving advice to someone else about sort of those skills, those hard or soft skills that are tangible? It doesn't matter what industry you're in or what discipline you cover. What would you say are some of those skills that you learned along the way that you think translates to all types of business areas that you would advise someone to sharpen up on?
I think that anybody, no matter what age you're at, if you're starting a new venture, whatever that thing is, but I'm going to use it like I'm entering the workforce, right? So you haven't really held a job yet, and you're trying to figure out what your mark is going to be and what industry you're going to start. I always say that the first 10 years, which sounds like a long time, but it's really not, should be, your mindset should be to learn as much as possible and clear the path for others, period. Because if you do that, very, very unique situations open up. So I'm sure, Danny, you've probably heard of this, but there's a great little bit about the canvas strategy on Tim Ferriss show. And the whole point of the canvas strategy is that the artist would be nothing without the canvas. So yes, the canvas seems like this like simple thing, but if that thing didn't exist, then these great works of art wouldn't exist. So for me, my attitude the first 10 years of my career was canvas strategy all day. I'm like, you want me to take out trash? Do you need coffee? How can I make this person's life better? But how can I learn and immerse myself simultaneously? And that put me in a lot of interesting rooms at a very young age, which I'm grateful for. So I think the attitude of the canvas strategy, regardless if you're 21 and first starting out, or you're 41 or 51 just trying something new, be intentional about having that attitude first, clearing the path for your team, vice versa, and then you'll see everybody kind of level up together, and then new opportunities are open because of that.
Yep, sounds good.
Yeah, I like that. And what would you say has been your biggest business challenge?
Biggest business challenge? Well, let's see. I'm a woman in national security and defense, so I'm usually. It's not hard being a woman in defense. It is and it's not, right? There's different things, but what is difficult is being a minority and the youngest in the room by anywhere from 10 to 20 years consistently, right? Because you have to fight to prove that you know your stuff,
Yep.
You have to double down and know it even better, right? So, because I never want to be in a position where somebody can kind of call my bluff, like, you don't actually know that, or, well, you look young, so I'm going to dismiss you, right? So I think that is just facts. It's reality. You have to know your environment, and be able to take advantage of it. So that's, you know, at the core, the industry I'm in is not necessarily favorable to somebody like me, but I don't let that stand in my way. I don't use that as an excuse, because I think that's a little bit of a cop out. I just am aware of it, right? The biggest business challenge, I think people tend to start businesses without actually thinking about it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, there's this big underbelly of entrepreneurialism in our country, which is amazing. It fuels our world, obviously. And I think sometimes people are a little bit too early to say, I'm going to start a business. And they don't actually think, like, am I starting a business for why? Because I want to feel the clout, because there's an actual problem to solve. Is the business the right way to do that? Should I actually develop a product? Should I go stand up a business unit in somebody else's structure? Because you don't think about all this other stuff you need, right? Mm-hmm. So I actually went through that exercise and landed on the fact that I needed to build Boone. Within Boone's process, everybody told me it would be twice as long and twice as difficult. And I waited twice the amount of time that I should to ask for help. So my hard-headedness, you know, Italian from Detroit, I was like, yeah, I got this, whatever. And so what ended up happening is I actually tore the company down twice, kept the same name, and rebuilt it. And the public didn't see that process. You know, there's some very, very tough choices that I had to go through, but I had a very specific end goal. So when you have an end goal and you have a mission that is tied to your core being, you can make those hard choices to then, you know, get to that state. Nothing's really going to stand in your way from doing that. And I think a lot of times people are scared to make those hard calls because they don't want to upset anybody. They don't want to upset themselves, but you can't please everybody in life ever. And you certainly can't please everybody when you're trying to build something that's never existed before.
And on the flip side, what has been your greatest accomplishment? What are you most proud of? Sounds like you've accomplished a lot. With Boone, with life.
In business.
Life and business.
Yeah. So that's tough. I think that the most rewarding thing to experience as a founder growing a company, which we started with one person, we now have 30. We're on path to finish this year at about 60. So, you know, we're on that flywheel, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a journey. But you know, I think for me, the most rewarding aspect of that is seeing people really come into their own. And I actually love to let go. So a lot of founders, the hardest thing is to fully let go of something. My favorite thing to do is find out what somebody's best at, give them the platform and the form to do that thing. And I, you know, disappear. And then I watch them do this. And it's, I mean, like, where they're like 10 times better than me, even though I trained them at one point, they weren't better than me. And then you just see them, you know, just go. And that has been amazing. I mean, yeah, our vice presidents in the company, you know, where they started 10 years ago in their career, what they're accomplishing now, they're leading teams, making a difference. Like, that is just the human performance aspect of business is probably my most rewarding thing. But the tangible aspect of it is, we built something that's really special. And I think I was mentioning to you, Boone is named after my great grandmother. She was, her name was Alberta Boone. She had a very, very tough life, bookended by tragedy all throughout. And she adapted and overcame every time. Part of her adaptation was flipping her restaurant into woman-owned restaurant, tail end of the Great Depression.
Wow.
She flipped that into a munitions production line as part of the Arsenal of Democracy efforts in Detroit. And today, what I'm most proud of for Boone is that we're building the new arsenal of technology for the U.S. military. So the things that we're investing in is, you know, cutting edge solutions to bring soldiers back home safely to be with their families, cutting edge contracting and like business strategy, which is really, really tough. And then last but not least, a talent engine that we built, which is helping military veterans and spouses transition to the private sector for free and get job placement. And so that tech plus contracting plus people, it's finally online in like the vision that I, you know, dreamed about 10 years ago. So
that's fantastic.
yeah, I think that's probably
that's amazing.
My, you know, rah. Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic. While you were talking, the fire alarm was going off on Daniel's end. So Daniel was trying to manage that. So are you okay over there, Daniel?
Are you alive? Are you okay?
I am good.
Okay.
There's a lot going on around me, but all
right. So we gotta have safety first. I want to make sure everything was okay.
You don't have a podcast without Danny, so you know.
I cannot. Absolutely not. So Daniel, I know we're almost at time. I'll let you wrap up with the last question. I hope it's the one that I wanted to ask because I was all ready.
I can have it be a short answer.
I was going to ask the accomplishment one, so you took the words out of my mouth. So I guess I can take yours.
You know what I want to know.
I know exactly
what I want to
know. So Joy, are there enemies in business? Like all the situations you deal with, and being a woman in the defense contracting space, how do you deal with the haters? How do you deal with enemies in business? Do they exist, or how do you operate around them?
I love this question so much, for a lot of reasons. So the short answer is, this is not my personal opinion, but this is industry. The short answer is yes, right? Mm-hmm. The reason why I said this is industry and not a personal opinion is because I'm going to tell you what I think. But the answer is yes. If you're somebody with a business philosophy that there can only be one player, that you have to cut people out, you know, at the Achilles tendon to watch them bleed out while you climb to the top, and that you're actually stepping on people's shoulders to get to the top ring as fast as possible. You know, that's not necessarily build fast, build hard, get a really high valuation and sell. You might not have a choice. You know, overall, personal opinion, I don't believe in enemies in business. I believe in friendly foes that inspire me to run harder and faster, because I'm like, oh, damn, they figured this out. Like, let me go get them, right? Yeah. And so I actually use it as fuel. But Boone's philosophy and my personal philosophy, we have a partnership mentality, because we can't be the best at everything. We just can't. Like, that'd be ridiculous. So I actually leverage the industry and industry partners as fuel, and I bring them into deals, even if the public thinks that we're direct competitors, and it messes with people so much. They're like, wait a minute, but hang on. And it's kind of fun, because then they actually get involved and they end up lifting you up, and you're like, it worked. But you know, if I put it in simple terms, I'll use a boxing analogy. Every good boxer will step in the ring, and their mission is to win, right? And you know, it's not to take out the opponent by death by any means, but it's to figure out the best strategy to get to your end goal. Sometimes that means you might be exchanging a couple punches with each other. And even if you win as a boxer, the best boxers in the world, at the end of the fight, there's such an immense amount of respect, because you're both on that same journey. You're both trying to build something. You're both trying to win. You're both putting in the hard work, the blood, the sweat, the tears. And if somebody comes out on top, it's more of a attitude of gratitude, being like, wow, okay, you did that. Let me go back and do my work, and I'm going to come back in again. So for me, enemies exist, yes, and it's what you do with them that matters.
Yep. Joy, this has been such a joy. How many times do you hear that? It's been such a joy, such a pleasure. I want to make sure people can connect with you and follow you if they like. If you'd like to provide your LinkedIn, your website, any information that you'd like to share for people to get in touch with you and kind of see what your business is doing and to get connected, how should they do that?
Yeah, love it. LinkedIn is great for any inquiry, personal or professional. So it's just my name, linkedin.com/JoyA, the letter A for Angela Shanaberger. And then on Instagram, I'm at JoyAnge, JoyAnge. And the company's address is www.boone.group. And our tagline, for those of you interested, is less talk, more torque. Which means I'm interested in talking to people a little bit, but I'm more interested in doing something with them over the conversation piece, if we can find it.
I love it. I love it. I love it. No, this was a joy, truly, and a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time out to spend with us.
So many gems.
Yes, from the start to the finish. Thank you so much.
Hey, I'm so happy for you guys. Congratulations on launching this. It's just like so awesome to see, and I hope you're having as much fun as I had on this.
We are having a ball.
We are.
Good. I love it. All right. Well, have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
See ya.